Hi, it's Colleen Schmidt. I am here today because, because of a comment. So I want to say thank you to the person who recommended that I do this. I actually was going to look at another piece of software today, and I think that I will at some point down the road introduce more software for astrology. But I haven't really gone into any detail regarding the Janus program. And I thought it might be really nice to just do a video using a chart for today, a chart that I actually just pulled up, a little horary astrology here. And which, by the way, if anyone doesn't understand what that is like instead of getting a card reading, you can get a reading of a chart that's done at the moment that you ask a question. It's a whole other way of using astrology. It really works. It's actually a very wonderful tool. So today we're going to look at the Janus program in more detail. I'm going to go through the menus and show where things are as I've been using it little by little since I've gotten it. So before I go to the chart, I just want to say thank you for the comments. Thank you so much. Thank you, subscribers. I know we have a small group, but it is at least a group. So thank you so much, all of you. Gratitude. Thank you for helping me build this channel and thanking you for allowing me to come into your lives. So with that, I'm going to jump to the chart. Again, we're going to look at it in all the different ways we can use it as a predictive chart, but the main purpose will be to ascertain, good word, what is involved in the software for Janus. So let's step inside and see what we have here. So we're looking at this chart, and again, it's just today's chart. I kind of like that Venus up there at the midheaven, so hopefully it's a complementary chart. The moon is somewhat close to the ascendant, and Pluto, Jupiter, not Saturn, are located at the ascendant. So we have a pretty good chart. Oh, Uranus, let's point this out. Mars is not, okay? Remember that we're only using 10 degrees. So that would mean that Mars is not in this chart configuration, but Uranus is. So how wonderful. So we're kind of looking at this chart, if somebody were asking about a love life, or they were asking about some kind of healing, or if they're asking about a money situation, this is a pretty good chart. I'm just looking at it so we can look at some astrology. So this is the basic chart. This is what you're going to come up with when you first use the program. So if I were to wanting another chart, say that I want one of the charts that are over here, or one of the charts that are actually in my deleted file. Look at that. Okay, you can see I have a lot in the deleted file. Oh, how nice. Okay, so another one here. So with the sun there. So basically what we're looking at is how to work the main function here of getting into the menu. So you could either get a chart, or you could take a chart that I have listed. These are the ones that I'm actually have been working on and will continue to work on. I know it looks familiar to a lot of you. I am using where I live. Okay, so that's here. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I could have switched it to Washington, but I want to show you how to do that. So let's proceed. So here we have Get Chart. You could look for charts that match certain criteria. This is the print, okay? The gallery is coming up is all of these different. Now, I sort of played with this a little bit because sometimes people want some of this little extra, like this one has the green and white. But what's really neat about this is where the reports are. That's what I call them in Solar Fire. So you have your house cusps, you have your planet placements, okay? And this is a Janus wheel. This is something that they do. But you could see that you could pretty much go anywhere, and now we have a grid. So the grid is great. Look at this is a scoring system. Okay, so cardinal, fixed, mutable. So basically water, air, earth, fire. What we're doing here is scoring the chart for strengths. And again, this in counseling astrology is really important, especially if you're looking at a natal chart. It can also be very important in horary charts, which can be done on here very simply. So I wanted to point this out because I thought this is the way many astrologers work. This would be your aspects. Okay, the aspects. We have a sextile and from the Venus to the moon. And you can see how it works. It's lined up just like any other graph. So I thought that was a really interesting. Plus, again, you can print whatever you want. You can print, you can copy it. You can save the images. You can zoom them. Okay. Anything you wanted to do with to be able to see them. This, again, is a different way of showing you the aspects that are in there, just as we were looking at aspects on the other chart. So if we go back, okay, let's go back to where we were, to our basic chart here. If we go back, just go through some of the things that we have here are the same things, especially right here, that you just saw. So there was, when I first started studying computer literacy, when I started becoming more literate with computers way back in the early 90s, the idea was that there's always more than one way to do something. I think that was a Microsoft thing. There's always more than one way. Well, the same is going to hold true for almost any software that we're going to be using for astrology. It's very applicable here. And just to prove my case, this is our new chart. Remember, this is how we do a new chart. So you could push this button right here, cast new chart, or you could just do that button. Always more than one way. So here is where, if you want to do a different kind of chart, so you could edit your chart. You could put, again, a new chart, get a chart, find a chart, edit a chart, okay? Move chart to recent files, copy chart. So again, you're able to take this chart and do a lot of things with it. You can even rectify using single wheels, bi-wheels, tri-wheels, quad wheels, and primary directions. Even an astrology location map, which here what you can do is you can change the hour. I love this. This is an astro map. So astro maps are pretty fun. I've played with them. I'm not that good at it. I'm much more of a counseling astrologer, a little bit of a Hellenistic astrologer, very much an asteroid astrologer, not as much into astrocarthy. But it doesn't mean that I haven't played with it. I think anybody who gets into astrology should look at all of the tools, because that way you can best understand how you gravitate to things. So I thought this was a really cool thing, okay? And again, you have all of your, you have reports, general reports. You could, again, add what you'd like to see. Here we have only the planets. We're not using the asteroids. We're not using trans-Neptunians yet. We're just doing basic, because some astrologers don't use all that other stuff. So here it kind of explains to you what the locality map and how it works. So I thought that was a really wonderful little addition. Just wanted to pull that up. There's so much in here. I probably won't get through everything today, and I'm going to run through things very quickly, but you can always look at this over and over again. Even playing, when I played, it took a couple hours, and I'm not going to make the video that long. So here again, lunar phase is something I play with a great deal. You've seen me work with new moons and full moons. This is a really good tool. The ingress chart and the eclipse charts, again, these are tools used by astrologers for predictive work. I actually have an eclipse chart. I'm not discussing it today because I'm going to do a discussion on it when we get closer. But our next eclipse is December 14th. And I want to look at it, and I'm going to use Janus so that we can do different things with it, such as showing where it is in our country and where it might fall in the world. Because eclipses create a line. The line is very important. Where these things happen, it's very important. So the other thing I wanted to, here's our horary. Okay, here's an electional. Okay, here's the Uranian, which by the way is a dial. Here's the Vedic. So you can take this chart and you can change it. But where I have done some studies and where I like working is with the ingresses and with the antisecas. And antisecas simply means that there is an opposing place out there, and it's not all opposites, okay? It has a lot more to do with daylight versus darkness. And it, like Libra is Pisces, I believe. I could whip these off at one time, not as good, but I think with Aquarius it's Scorpio. So basically the antiseca deals more with geography in terms of daylight versus nighttime. And that's really worth doing a session on by itself, is antiseca charts. I don't use them as much as I should. I have taken a few courses when I've been at seminars. I love the whole idea of it, and I have seen it in counseling charts work in amazing ways, actually. It again is another way to get another chapter, more details to the storyline. So I wanted to show this, okay? And then this you've all seen me use. This is something that tells us whether we're going to use the planets, the asteroids, the fixed stars, okay? That's another one. And the Arabic parts. I mean, this is a whole other kind of astrology. I've only really dabbled in the fixed stars, only enough to know where mine are. And by the way, also in studying the current, not the elected president, but in the current chart of the president, he has some interesting, Regulus is why he's never failed. I'll give you an example. And Damocles, so if I'm saying it correctly, the sword of Damocles is why he's falling. So those are things worth studying and looking up. I have a few in my own chart that are appropriate for me. So I like to look at this. This is really, again, can be really interesting. You could sit with one of these astrology programs and just sit there like you would on a YouTube and just go from channel to channel. Well, in this case, we would go from menu to menu, okay? So, as we've seen before, the Arabic parts are something else that I love to use, but that's because I'm a dial astrologer. I am a little bit of a Uranian astrologer, and these are formulas. The Arabic parts are, look at this, ascendant plus Mercury minus Saturn. Okay, just that right there is how we talk when we're working with dials, because that mathematical configuration is very, very important to the overall chart when you're looking at the Arabic parts. So I wanted to bring that up because I thought, wow, what a really cool thing. And I really like that they tell you, now just look how many there are. You could literally do whole charts based on these Arabic parts, okay? Which I'm going to tell you right now, ascendant Venus, moon, these are still, if you're at all experienced with rules for planetary pictures, there's a whole book. Let me just pull it down, step up here, and I'll pull it down, and let me just come back for a second here. And let me just show you this book. These are a lot of pictures. I'm hoping that works. I probably should go and look and see if you can see that. Okay, so as we go through this, you can see that book, okay? And notice I have all these bookmarks. But all this book is those formulas. So I wanted to show that. Now let's go back to where I was. So let's go back. And as we go back, we're going to look at this software again. Let's look at more menus. So we know what select is. Oh, and by the way, I'm a big midpoint fan. So in this particular case, you can actually pick up the midpoints, which by the way is a whole other mathematical configuration in terms of how to read a chart. You can get these all have really important things to say in any chart. You could do a whole analysis based on midpoints. So I wanted to show that. No. So here we're going to go through, and this is also Uranian stuff, where, remember we just showed you the Arabic parts. Now here you can make your own. So I could go through my rules for planetary position, my rules book, and remember the rules book, and I could redo them in here. So I really love that. I thought that was a really cool quality. Now, wheels are interesting, and it took me a while to find this, and this is where I started playing with this program and stayed here for so long. Bi-wheels, tri-wheels, and quad wheels. So I don't have a lot up here, but so let me just show you a bi-wheel. If I were to go into bi-wheel, we are seeing the same chart, but I want to get an inner chart. I want to get, or let's get an outer chart. Well, you could also rectify from here. You can also animate one of these. But I want to, let me go back. Somehow I've missed the getting the other charts. Let me go back out of this. Okay. When you go into your wheels, I want to have a setup for the amount of wheels that I'm doing. So maybe what I want to do is I'm going to shift like that. And now I'm going to go to wheels by wheels and see if it pulls it up. No, it did not. So we're going to have to go back here to do it. There it is. Okay, now we got it. Okay, there you go. So I did November 15th, only a couple days away. That was actually the day I was looking at it. So we have, actually no, that was our new moon. So here we have how far we've come from our new moon. And you can do a comparison of the two charts. You can go up to 4 charts. Okay? Moving along. You can also do dials through, not in here, unfortunately, but here's our midpoints again. Here are our tables, different tables of houses. Here's a midpoint weighing analysis. So I don't use a lot of things in here. But I like the star table. I like aspects to stars. I think that that's real, that can be real exciting. And it'll put in your stars. I like this parents too. Okay? This is where you put them in. This is where you select what you're looking at. Here's where you select the stars you want to use. Okay? And here is the report for that day. And I was going to get to that because I think the reports are probably, to a lot of beginning astrologers, some of the most important things that you can look at is to find out what does aspect you, okay? Especially if you're new to, I'm going to do parents. Okay? And here we have it. Okay? So this is, again, telling you where you fall with those stars. I think that was awesome. So just moving along, just keeping it going here. The predictive charts, this is an area I'm huge in. This is an area that I do work with. I'm real big when I'm doing my own private work for people with transits, directions, progressions. This is something that when you're doing counseling astrology, it kind of gives people like their look for the next 6 months or the year in some cases, and I do solar returns. You'll notice that return charts are here. Here's a progressed solar return. So say that you did a chart for December of 2019, but you want to look at what March of 2020 looks like. You can progress it and you can see what that solar return and how it's changing. The same thing with age harmonics. They are really good for aging us, that where we are today, because we may have the same natal chart, but we grew up, we evolved, and that kind of shows you the evolution a little bit. Primary directions, that's part of this transits, the distributions, the daily timing. Oh, daily timing is incredible when you're trying to do predictive work. What time of day will it happen? I play with this all the time just for fun because I want to see how wrong or right I'm going to be. Diurnal events and parents are, again, day-to-day mundane activities. Planetary cycles, you can look at when Venus is going to be back there, Mars is going to be back there. You've got an age harmonic here. I'm really loving the ephemeris, and you can read it as a grid or as a, look at that, look at that. It's beautiful. So it's again, what a wonderful tool for people that are getting involved in astrology, or for astrologers that are already working and can play more. That's what we call it, play. So just kind of wanted to show that what we could do. This is again November 17th, but then it shows everything moving beyond November 17th. And I think that again could be really informative for, and by the way, that's retrograde. So just to let you know, but a lot of this you'd figure out as you're going through. I'm going to stop that. Oops, stop. So we're going to stop and we're going to get out of that. Now, the predictive work, as I said before, directed charts, if you're solar directed, the return charts, lunar and solar, progressing those charts so you can progress a lunar chart. It's amazing. So again, this is really important to people who do counseling astrology. The interpretations, took me a while to find this. This is really important for me. I don't know why, but I love looking at this stuff. And what's interesting is that if you're a client of mine, I'll often include my own report, but I'll include theirs too. In some way back in the day, way before this particular solar fire, I've had solar fire for over 20 years. Back in the beginning, I did a lot of editing of interpretation files. And I think that's, the whole idea of editing a file, rewriting a file or adding to a file, and again, we're USA, I really feel like it's really important sometimes to throw in there that maybe you don't quite agree with what's there, or maybe you just feel it's a little general and you know better how to interpret something, or there's something that you kind of want to put in there for yourself. This is a great tool. I've used it more, as I said, in the past than I use it now. The planet catalog, the relocation report, the synastry report. Synastry is the combination of charts as between two people. When two people get together, it creates a synastry chart. And a synastry chart has its own reading. There's a whole thing that I do when I'm working with couples or partnerships, and I talk about how that's the reason why when people break up and they get back together, they really think it's going to work the second time, but it sometimes doesn't, because a synastry chart is between two people. And it doesn't change because those things didn't change. It's easier for an individual to shift than it is for that particular chart to shift. Then we move on to our tools. And this is where I started working with dials. So I'm a dial user. So the tools, this dial aspect here is something that I would really like to play with more. And this here has to be set up. As you can see, I haven't really set it up. So, but here we go. We're just, again, I didn't put two charts in, but I just wanted to show that this chart, and this is a 90 degree, and how you can tell is because it's 90 degrees. Here's your 45. So believe it or not, when you're working with dials, the 90 degree is probably the most commonly used dial. But dials do not have to be 90 degrees. They can also be 360, they can be 30, they can be 60, they can be 15 degrees. So I did want to point that out. And look at, we have all these added additions that we can play with. We can also screen background, pointer controls. So really awesome stuff. I like the way it shows you the midpoints right there. Okay? I love that. Your settings are a lot about editing and custom sidereal. Like if you work with a sidereal, I work with sidereals if I do lunar returns and solar returns. I don't work with just the return. I always work with the sidereal version as well, which we call a precess chart. And that gives me a really complete picture of what's going on. Some people do it, some people don't. You can also switch your colors. You can switch your main screen settings. So in general, again, big play area. I call that a play area. Okay? And I like the help because it does talk about learning astrology and technical support, and it does take you to the website. So, and using presets. So there's a good information in there as well. So now, to sum this up, I want to point this out. I can change this chart to now. I just did it. Okay, look at that. Mercury has now joined. And Venus has now started moving away. It's still in, but it's starting to move away. This is a calendar. Okay, and the beauty is that in this calendar, you can, and I love these because you can print this out and you can put it up on a wall and it'll give you what's going on in my area for the month of November. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I just really love that. So I wanted to show that. This is a graph, if you will, so that it shows, don't you love that? Some astrologers would prefer to read this than a chart. I don't think there's any right or wrong ways. There's just a lot of play, a lot of opportunity for play. I'm not much of a graph person. I'm much more of a dial person, ironically. Wheels, yes, but really dials. Here's where we can kind of do our parallels, contraparallels, when something is out of bounds. Again, when you're working counseling astrology, it's really good to know what planets are out of bounds. That's a really huge factor in reading a chart. So I do encourage that for people to know that. I can tell you in my own chart, it's been an enlightening and interesting thing since I started playing a lot with out of bounds. Synastry reports are between two people. Okay, this is when you put two people together. A composite chart, I'm sorry, synastry is the two different charts that come together, whereas a composite chart is when you put the two charts together to create one chart. But that's the reason why it's kind of tough for people to constantly go back. Here's a natal report of that day, okay? And Here, this is the chart, the planets, the aspects, midpoints. What are you looking for? And this is where you're generating a natal chart report. And it can view the report from here. It's formatting right now. And you can see, there it is. And this, again, is something that as an astrologer, I do send to clients. And again, this is also where you can edit. So it's really just some good stuff here, okay? Again, I'm a big fan of the reports. This is a relocation chart. We looked at a relocation map. You can add your new city here. Then you can cast your chart to see how that relocation changes the chart. Why don't we do that? Why don't we add a new, we're not going to add a new city to the atlas. I just screwed up. So let's take that off. That was wrong. But here is where you would put your input to, where do we want to go? Let's go across the, so let's go to Los Angeles. If I'm spelling it correctly. Oh, I don't know how to spell. I should have went for something I could spell. Let's go with California. Oh, if I could type. And then we would have to change that. So we'd have to, location. Oh, atlas. Here we go. That's the best way to do it. California. See how I tried to put in California? Wouldn't it be better this way because they can spell, I can't? So we're going to California. And in California, I had picked out Los Angeles. But again, you look at all this. This is all California. They have a good atlas in this program. I need good atlases. When I show the next program, which is a European program, it's a little different. You see that? I'm going to show something else. Let's do Fresno. So I put in, look at that. Now I cast the chart. How does it look? Very different, because they're not even in the same time zone. So I just want to show that. I thought that was really a good piece. And then you have, as I showed you before, your astrocarthy, okay? But notice that I'm not pulling anything from those menus anymore. I am going, these are traditional charts, by the way, old-fashioned, okay? Many millennials, okay? We'll get rid of that. And let me keep going. This is, again, if people, it really depends on how you prefer to read a chart. You see that? That's our wheel. But it's done really differently. And again, it's what do you prefer? What does someone prefer? The Uranian chart, I was actually stuck on this when I first started because I was playing with this one, look at that. We're in 4 dials. I didn't pick 4 charts. That's why everything looks the same. But it also gives you only the inner. But if I move it, look at that. You see that? I love it. So another good feature. And I really encourage that if you're interested, this is an electional chart. Electional charts are, again, mundane charts. And they are about the transits. They're about where you are, or did you choose to pick another date down the future that you want to look at? So they're not necessarily individual charts, okay? Planetary hours is something that I used to play with, oh my gosh, years ago. And when I saw this on here, I was like, wow, I forgot I used to play with this. But here we are with our, where are we today? So it tells you where you are. At sunrise, we're in the Mars hour. Okay, 2 a.m. Okay, see, 5, 6, 7, 8. We are now at 11. And so we're here, Mercury hour, and I'm teaching. So I just wanted to briefly, here we are, the moon phases again. Okay, here we are. So you see how each cast a return chart. These are rectify, the cast a directed chart, secondary progressed or a directed chart. There's your progress chart. So you see how you can just go across the dirty print. You could go right across the top and get all the information that you need. So I'm going to come back. I realize I've been going on and on and on. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, please check back with me at Divination Counseling Service. There's like even an instant message there. I get back to people usually within 24 hours. So give me questions, comments. Let me know how you feel about this. But in the interim, thank you for being here. And as always, happy readings.